Love lives here.
So here at Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, we are working with the theme for the year, Timeless Wisdom and Evolutionary Vision. Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And the theme for February is One Journey, Many Paths. One Journey, Many Paths. So we will be exploring this month the ideas, the timeless wisdom of the Timeless Wisdom Evolutionary Journey. We'll be exploring the ideas of the timeless wisdom that are part of the one journey that many faith traditions adhere to or believe in as well. So that there is the one journey, however, there are many paths to approaching this one journey. And there is what Dr. Holmes called the golden thread of truth running throughout all of the world's great faith traditions. So it is that we are looking at and we are exploring over the course of the month. And today we are looking at the idea of a clean slate. A clean slate. When the Global Themes team and I were working on and we were visioning for the themes for this year for Centers for Spiritual Living, the idea of a clean slate came through. The idea of the tabula rasa came through, like a blank slate or blank tablet came through. The idea of deconstructing came through. And so all of these kind of like worked together. They were similar ideas, and we distilled them down to what we have for you today, which we are calling a clean slate, but we're approaching it from a couple different directions or a couple different ways. So, of course, here at Centers for Spiritual Living, and I can say this is probably true, I would say, for Centers for Spiritual Living worldwide, we often say, where two or more of us are gathered, there will be food, right? So where two or more of us are gathered, there will be food. So there's a spiritual truth right there for you, right? So let's start with food. Let's start with deconstructing, shall we? So if we think about the movement in the culinary arts that's been happening for a few years now about food deconstruction, what the idea behind that is to decipher the complete idea or decipher the core idea and then dismantle something to form its core components or its key components, and then looking at those key components in a different way, perhaps exploring them in a different way, and then reassembling them in a new way, from a new perspective, from a different perspective. So it's a looking at the core idea, looking then at the key components of that idea, and then reassembling. So an example is, okay, let's think about a tuna sandwich. So what is a tuna sandwich? A tuna sandwich is a sandwich made with tuna fish, right? So what are the key components of a tuna sandwich? Key components of a tuna sandwich would be tuna, of course, probably mayonnaise, maybe some pickles, perhaps onion if you're into that, and a bread of some sort, right? So that's your basic tuna sandwich kind of ingredients with the components of the tuna sandwich. The tuna sandwich is the core idea, and then those are the individual components of the tuna sandwich. So if we look at what we teach here at Centers for Spiritual Living, what is the high idea? What is it that we believe? What is our core, at the very core? The very core is God is all there is, and it is forever expressing. God is all there is. Spirit is all there is. Divine is all that there is. There is nothing else opposed to it. There is only the one life, the one power. God is all that there is. So if God is all there is, then what are the key components of that? Is that God is forever expressing itself in, through, and as its creation. That the body of God, that creation is the body of the divine. The universe is the body of the divine, the body of spirit. So there is spirit and there is body, there's form, and then there's also what is known as the law or the soul or the creative medium. So then it moves us into that idea of the creative process of that there is the high idea that is planted into the soil that then when the soil knows how to create it or how to work with it to then bring forth the form of the plant itself. So there is that idea of seed, soil, and plant. But if God is all there is, if spirit is all that there is, then the substance itself, that is life itself, that is creation itself, has to be the divine as well. So therefore, we've got spirit, God is all there is. And then if that's true, then I have to be that too. That I am the microcosm of the macrocosm. That everything, all of life, all of creation is an expression of the divine, is a manifestation of the divine, is the divine in full, glorious, wonderful expression. And the law, the way it works, is first there's consciousness, and consciousness must be conscious of something. So spirit must be conscious of form. And so the only way then for spirit to be conscious of form is spirit to then create form through its divine laws. So we have God is all there is. Therefore, I am that I am. I am one with that. I am the microcosm of the macrocosm, meaning then that I can use the same creative process that spirit uses to create me and the trees and anything else. I can use the same creative process to then create, or co-create rather, what I wish to experience in my life, what I wish to experience in form, how I wish to live my life, how I wish to experience life, how I wish to walk through life. I have that same creative ability, but on a micro level rather than the macro level. Because there is only one mind, one consciousness, and my mind, my consciousness, is an individualized expression of that one mind, that one consciousness. So I'm working with the same law, I'm working with the same principles, the spiritual principles, to then be able to co-create my experiences, to co-create my life, right? So that is the deconstruction, if you will. That is the way, those are the components of what we teach, the philosophy that we teach here at Centers for Spiritual Living, the beliefs that we hold here at Centers for Spiritual Living. That is the core, the essence of what we are then, that we then can combine in an infinite number of ways to then create with. So if we go back to the idea of the tuna salad sandwich or the tuna sandwich, if we think about the tuna, right? We think about the components of it. So if we deconstruct it and we understand that there's the tuna, there's the mayonnaise, there's the pickles, there's the bread, possibly the onions. I'm not so crazy about the onions, but I'll let you have them. So there's those pieces there, right? So if you think about the tuna sandwich, one way of looking at a tuna sandwich would be deconstructing it to like, maybe there's seared ahi tuna with a wasabi aioli with some pickled ginger sandwiched between two crispy wonton wrappers. Now, we've created a tuna sandwich, the essence of the tuna sandwich, the core idea of the tuna sandwich is there, but we have reworked, reimagined, thought of other possibilities and come up with a different flavor profile, perhaps, than what we would traditionally think of as a tuna sandwich. We've come up with something different. And so that might be what you've come up with. There we go. Pat says she'll grill the onions for me. All right, thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. That makes them a little bit sweeter. Somebody else, on the other hand, might take those same might take that same idea and have, okay, so there's tuna, and then we'll add some garlic crema to that, and then slice up some giardiniera, some Italian pickled vegetables, and then arrange all of that on a crostini. And there is maybe an Italian take on a tuna sandwich. The components are still there, but how they've been assembled, and the idea is still there, but how they've been assembled, and comes and creates a new different flavor profile. So this is the same way that we use the creative process that we use. Yeah, Neil, I know, I'm hungry too. Some people like celery. I mean, see, there's a variety of ways, and this is exactly the point, Francis. That there is a variety of ways of assembling these things together to create something delicious. So the same principle applies, is that there are a variety of ways that we can use our thoughts, use our beliefs, use our ideas to create a life that works for each of us, to create wonderful expressions of the divine, to allow for the expression of the divine, the creativity and the innovation of the divine to flow through each of us. Some folks are nurses, some folks are teachers, some folks are musicians, some folks are politicians or public servants, some folks are in service to others. They are chefs, actually, or others, right? And coming to my house for a tuna sandwich. There you go. And then there's the no meat version, Kasey. Absolutely, right? Then you can use the seitan, or you can use the tofu and do similar things with that, right? So there's all these versions, there's all these possibilities of divine expression. But it's up to us to bring our faith, to bring our creativity, to bring our freedom of choice to the table, so that we may then experience something new, something fresh, something that we want to experience. So this is the idea that we have this ability to take things, rearrange them, and shift things. We have the ability to take our thoughts, take our beliefs, rearrange them, shift them, and experience something different in our lives, or experience something greater in our lives. It doesn't always have to be different. It could just be greater in our lives. There's occasionally comes a time, maybe more than occasionally, where we have some challenges, where we experience the obstacles. And each challenge itself is an opportunity to gain a new perspective and to alter course. But the way we do that is we have to suspend our assumptions. We have to suspend our preconceived ideas. So if we are presented with a challenge, or we're faced with a challenge, or we're faced with some kind of an obstacle, what we have the opportunity to do is to suspend our assumptions, suspend our preconceived ideas, and open to a higher idea, a higher perspective, a different perspective. And this is some of what we've been talking about with looking up, to see a greater perspective, a different perspective. And then we are open to the possibilities. So one of the ways that we can suspend assumptions or preconceived ideas is we can really be self-reflective and ask ourselves the question, what would life look like? What would my life look like without this fear that I'm carrying in this moment? Or what would my life look like without this belief that I've been holding on to? What would my life look like without this behavior that I've been participating in? What would my life look like without the judgments or the accusations that I've made? What would my life and life in general look like without these things? How might life be different if I gained a different perspective on them? How might my life be different if I allowed those things to fall away? Could I have a more expanded life? Could I have a richer life? Could I have a fuller life? Could I have a more joyful life? Could I have a more loving life? Could I have a more exuberant life if I weren't holding on to, or believing, or thinking, or behaving, or fearing, or worrying, or doubting, or judging, or accusing? What kind of life might be available to me? You see, enlightenment, and as Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith says, 100% of spiritual growth is in the releasing. 100% of spiritual growth is in the releasing. So enlightenment actually is a destructive process by which the untruths crumble away, by which the false ideas fall to the wayside, by which we eradicate those things that we thought to be true that weren't true. They may have been a fact, but they were not the truth. So we have the opportunity to eradicate, to let go of, to allow those things to crumble away through our conscious thought. Because we are choosing, as part of our reconstructing and part of our way of using these components or reassembling these components, we are choosing to no longer participate in those activities, to no longer entertain those ideas, to no longer hold those beliefs, to no longer participate in those behaviors, that we are choosing something different. We are choosing to look at something different. We are choosing to allow those things to fall away and to crumble. And we are choosing to actively participate in doing that. Ernest Holmes says that a practitioner removes apparent obstacles so that the field may experience an influx of spirit. Again, the practitioner, and that means everybody, not just licensed practitioners, but the practitioner removes from their mind obstacles, removes obstacles or apparent obstacles, so that on the field of consciousness, a new idea, new influx of spirit may arrive, may become present, may be there. Because spirit is already there. Spirit is already there. And so that is kind of where that tabula rasa piece comes in, is that spirit is already there. It already is. It always is. And then the idea of the tabula rasa is that our experiences then shape our personality, that we kind of come in as this blank tablet, and our experiences shape our personality. Our ideas, our beliefs, the race consciousness kind of shape and steer who we are. But where science of mind, where Centers for Spiritual Living kind of diverges from that complete tabula rasa idea that we are a complete blank slate or a complete blank tablet when we come in, that we don't really have consciousness when we come in, we know that consciousness is all that there is. So even before taking this form and taking this shape, consciousness already is. And we know that each one of us is a part of, or is the divine consciousness, the one consciousness expressing itself in, through, and as each one of us. As each one of us. So we come in, perhaps we have forgotten experiences before, but we come in and we arrive in this plane open, available, impressionable. We have our experiences that form our habits, our beliefs, our ideas, the way we operate and show up in the world, that is true, that there is part of it is a blank slate, but yet part of it isn't, right? There is that consciousness, and that consciousness of the divine is always ever available to us when we are open to it. But we have to be open and available to it. We can't say, okay, divine spirit, or okay, spirit, speak to me, and, put our fingers in our ears and blah, 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 and, we keep talking, right? that we keep advancing our own idea rather than opening up to Spirit's idea. That there is this, we must bring ourselves into alignment with Spirit itself, the divine wisdom itself that knows, that is all that there is, that we are one with. And so that's part of that song that Jubel sang earlier, I will be. Whatever Spirit needs of me, I will be. Wherever Spirit is leading me, I will go. Because it is being in right relationship and understanding that there is that divine wisdom ever available to us if we open ourselves and avail ourselves of it. So when it comes to a clean slate then is a new perspective. It's gaining a new perspective, whether it's a challenge or something else. It is a wholly new perspective, and that's where the clean slate is. It's a new opportunity. It's a new perspective to make a shift, to make a change, to experience something greater, to experience something more. But don't get it twisted. A clean slate does not mean we wipe away everything that was, everything that brought us to this point, that we just totally wipe it all away, take no responsibility for it, take no responsibility for ourselves in this moment, take no responsibility for our actions, our attitudes, our behaviors, that we take no responsibility for that, that we just try and set that all aside and turn away and start fresh and new. We participated, we co-created, we assisted, whether consciously or unconsciously, to bring us to where we are in this point, individually and collectively. There is that part that we have arrived at this point that we are not completely absolved from our responsibility. So therefore, we get the opportunity, and this is another opportunity for growth, we get the opportunity to accept responsibility without shaming ourselves or blaming ourselves or tearing ourselves down, that we get the opportunity to be self-reflective, to then change, keeping in mind that there may be reparations that are necessary. There may be reconciliation that is necessary to restore us and to restore our community and restore our relationships to be in right relationship with one another and with ourselves and with the divine. So a clean slate provides us this opportunity, but it does not absolve us of all responsibility. Because what we also know is that we are responsible. We are responsible. So when we hear things on the news of folks, calling for unity, calling for unity, and they're not willing to take responsibility for the insurrection on January 6th, this is not the opportunity for a clean slate. It is a twisted perspective of the opportunity for a clean slate, a calling for a clean slate. I want a fresh start. I want to start over. I want to start new, but let's forget about what happened. It's not spiritual maturity. It is not social maturity. It is not being responsible. It's not taking responsibility, which is what we are called to do. Because if there is going to be unity, if there's going to be true change, then the truth, the ultimate truth, has to be revealed. The truth of unity has to be revealed, but it can't be revealed if we are not willing to do the work, to repair, reconcile, and restore the wholeness that is already present within us, the unity that is already present within us. We get to clean up our messes too. So don't think that a clean slate gets you off scot-free. There's still work to be done. And this work is so valuable because it really presents the opportunity for a complete change, for a permanent change. Because when truth is revealed in this way, then nothing that is unlike truth can stand in the face of truth. Nothing can stand against the truth. But if we are unwilling to accept the truth, we are unwilling to look at the truth, we are unwilling to experience the truth, and we're unwilling to take responsibility for our actions that may have been away from the truth, where we haven't been acting in integrity with the truth, then it blocks the flow. We might experience some occasional change or some minor change, but real change, real evolution, real growth, real unity isn't possible without that. So we have the opportunity, my friends, my beloveds, we have the opportunity to really apply what it is, those core concepts, those core ideas, really apply it to our lives individually and collectively, to really apply that to us, to our lives, to our community, for the betterment of all, for the betterment not only of our own lives, but the betterment of our larger community. We do this through our spiritual practices. So our spiritual practices are also core ideas that we can mix and match, and we can shift and approach from different ways, different perspectives. So there we have affirmative prayer, we have sacred service, we have visioning, we have meditation, we have study. And so there's all these, and sacred conscious giving. And so there are all these ways that we can combine those ingredients with different flavor profiles and create different experiences within our own life and within our community. And so today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to lean into that spiritual practice, the spiritual practice of prayer, of affirmative prayer, of spiritual mind treatment. And so if there is something right now that you are experiencing that you are ready to let go of, or that you are ready to release, that a challenge perhaps that you are experiencing that you want a different perspective on, or perhaps there is something you want to have a greater experience of, then let us use our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, which is one way of using the creative process, one way of expressing that creative process of planting a new idea into consciousness for its fruition, for it taking form. Let us do that now together, shall we? So if there is something that you are wanting prayer for, there is something that you are wanting change, there is some challenge that you are having, or there is something that you would like to experience more of or greater of, let's come together in consciousness now with a clean slate, with an open opportunity to begin creating that now, of using our tool, using this tool to create it now. So I invite you to go ahead and type those into the comments. Go ahead and place them in there. And as you are looking at that, as you're typing and getting ready to put that in, I'm going to start with the first two steps of treatment, which is unification, is recognition and unification. We recognize that God is all that there is and that we are one with that. So let's come together in consciousness. I recognize here and now that there is only one life. This life is the divine. It was in the beginning and it is always. It was before the beginning. Before Abraham was, I am. That truly God is all that there is. It is love, it is joy, it is harmony, it is peace. The peace that passes all understanding. It is the divine wisdom of the ages, the timeless wisdom, ever present and ever available, always. It is unconditional love, forever expressing and giving of itself, to itself, through itself, as itself. For there is only one substance, one life, one love, one power, one presence. And so I recognize that because there is only this one substance, there is only this one consciousness, there is only this one life, then I must be one with it. That the who of who I am, the very essence of my being, the essence of my form, the essence of my consciousness, is one with the one. It is the divine made manifest as an individualized expression as me. So I live, move, breathe, and have my being in it, and it as me. I am the divine emanation and impartation and expression of the one life, the one love, the one wisdom. And I recognize that the divine mind is my mind now, for there is only one mind. There is only one consciousness. There is only one law of creativity and expression. And so it is this that I am aware of and I tap into in this moment. And as I know that this is true of me, I know that this is true of all of life, of all of creation. Therefore, I know it is true of everyone present here this day. And so I speak of a word for our beloved community, a word of comfort, clarity, peace, wholeness, a word of love. And so I give thanks. I give thanks for this time of community prayer. I give thanks for this time of truth, of recognizing truth. I give thanks for the high idea that has been planted, the high idea that has been revealed here in consciousness, that we have aligned ourselves in consciousness with. And so I know that it is already so, it is already done, so I release this word, accepting it as is. I let it be, and so it is. Amen.
Love